And we are recording. Brilliant. So, welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I have former intelligence officer, I'll try again. Former senior intelligence officer from the CIA, Peter Warmka. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Gavin, very much. How are you doing today?
If I can untie my tongue, I'll be doing a lot better. So, first off, I know your time is hugely valuable, so I want to thank you on behalf of the audience that are going to be joining us here today. And I want to start by very quickly plugging your books on Amazon, and I want to come back to them later because you've got a couple. I know you've got the Confessions of a CIA Spy, which I started listening to some of the audio book earlier, funnily enough, and there is another one that you've done more recently as well. Is that right?
Right. It was released only 4 weeks ago. It's called Why Are You Messing With Me? A Senior Survival Guide on Fraud, Privacy, and Security. So the first one's more directed toward organizations and their employees. And the second one is directed more toward what I consider to be the most vulnerable segment of the population are the seniors that when we're talking about these issues that I'm sure we're going to get into regarding fraud, security, and how you protect yourself from scammers and people that are out to get to target you for one reason or another.
Oh yeah, for sure. What would you say at the minute is the biggest risk in the retail area when it comes to kind of anything from fraud or loss prevention? What would you say would be the
oh boy, that's a loaded question because now you've seen on TV, you see a lot of these crash and carry, right, and going into these organized mobs that will go into stores and just take everything out. But I mean, there's also a big loss on online shopping, right? And that hits both the merchants as well as individuals that will get online believing that they're buying something, but it's from the manufacturer, from the realtor. The retail shop, but it's a clone site. It's fake. Are using their credit card to buy something that never arrives, and they can get their money back usually by contacting the issuer of the charge card. But after all, it doesn't matter if you get your money back. This type of fraud, and we're all victims of it because it's going to increase the costs, the prices, and everything, and as it has.
Yeah. And this is a thing. There are so many people out there who use this term, a victimless crime. And they say, insurance fraud is a victimless crime. It's not a victimless crime. We all pay, especially when it comes to, like you say, credit card fraud.
Absolutely, yes.
The way they're doing these websites now as well are, they're absolutely phenomenal. When you say cloned, I mean, they're literally identical in every way, and there might be just a small. They might use a Russian Cyrillic for an A rather than the letter A or something along those lines. So it looks, you wouldn't notice if you're not being really, really meticulous and scrutinizing it carefully, especially with the email scams and that kind of thing.
Yeah. These especially during the holiday seasons, right? When people cyber Black Friday, Cyber Monday, when there's Christmas shopping, people will look online and they'll see, the same product offered by a number of different retail establishments. And there's going to be one or two that are going to be like, the price is going to be, wow, that's a great price. And they say, that's the same product. I know that product. I went to a store. I held that in my hand. That's a great product. That's a great price. I'm going to buy it. And, they place the order on his website. And one of the, easiest ways is, you should be very, first of all, skeptical when the price is like 40% of what, or 50% of what all the other merchants are offering it for. And then when the site has no really contact information other than a 1-800 number, there's no address for the company or anything. That's really evident, But people, people get emotional and they get excited when they see a great deal and they think, I got to get this now. I'm going to lose out, on the opportunity. So they don't necessarily think about what this really could be. They just press the button and make the purchase and they're happy.
Yeah. And I've seen these things in action, ticking clocks in the corner and so many, 900 left, 720 left, 600 left, and they've got these countdowns. I must buy it now. They're really pushing you to kind of, dial up with your credit card number or put your credit card number in really, really fast. And the truth of the matter is, ignore the clock, ignore the numbers, ignore everything. There's plenty to go around. People are not going to stop selling to you. You've got time to check it out. Go back.
Absolutely.
It will be there.
I mean, it's a social engineering tactic, right? There's several different types of influence factors in social engineering. It's all about psychology and getting people to do what you want them to do for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. The whole everything that is done by. I mean, sales psychology. I love anyway. I remember learning about the decoy product with cinemas. Did you ever hear about that with the buckets of popcorn?
No.
Oh, brilliant! So they got 2 buckets of popcorn, and one was $3, and one was $7. So it was a small and a large, and everybody was just buying the $3 one, just having a little one. They weren't paying the $7 for the larger one because it just wasn't worth it. A bit of popcorn. So what they did is, instead of having a small and a large, they brought in a sales psychologist, and he said, "Right, what I want you to do," he said, "I want you to do a medium one." He said, "And I want you to put that up for $6.50." And I went, "What?" I said, "And you won't sell any." He said, "That's your decoy product." He said, what people are going to do, they're going to look at the small one. They're going to see this small representation of a tiny cup and think that's not going to be enough. They'll look at the medium one for $6.50 and say, "Do you know what? We'd be better off paying the extra 50 cents and having the larger one for $7. All of a sudden, sales of the large one just skyrocketed. People weren't very often buying the small one, never bought the medium one, and the large one was the best seller. And
I can see how that can work very well. Actually.
Yeah, I love sales psychology. I mean, I have a degree in psychology anyway, so I love the whole kind of anything psychologically related. And this is my interest in social engineering. One day you and I are going to have to sit around a campfire and talk about all the different things that connected to social engineering. I really, really love it. Now, I imagine you've used this kind of tactics a lot in your career. What can you tell us about some of that and how you've utilized it?
It was kind of funny. That wasn't until I retired from working for the CIA that I heard of the term social engineering, and I said, that is exactly what I did. Exactly what I did. I mean, at the end of the day, I was out there. I was out, for over 2 decades, over 20 years. I was living and working overseas, responding to requirements for information, intelligence. And the first part, the first stage is, where is this information held, and then what organization, where within the organization, and collecting as much information about, where how it might best be to penetrate the organization. What it came down to always was identifying that person, that insider, who could potentially provide me with that information or some sort of facilitate access to that information. So I began to, that was my target, the individual. And I always say that what I tried to do is turn that insider into an insider threat, basically, because it wasn't to the benefit of the organization for them to lose this information. It was to my benefit, right? So I had to turn that individual into somebody who manipulate that individual through social engineering techniques to obtain that information. So the first stage is studying that individual. It's really crucial. And I mean, identifying them first was always a little bit of a challenge in the early days, but now we can easily identify that insider by using one simple social media site, LinkedIn. I mean, you can go to LinkedIn and you can find the profile of the individual that you think is best suited, given their access to the type of information, that work, etc. So they begin targeting that individual, and usually it was, getting together with them over a period of time for coffee, lunch, or other social activities. And that was to build trust with them, rapport, but even more importantly, to learn about them, learn about what makes them tick, what are their motivations and vulnerabilities, because, we all have motivations and vulnerabilities, and these change over one's life. And once I could identify those, then I know which ones I could likely leverage in being able to get this individual to do something that I wanted them to do for me. So that was really crucial. And I think I always ask this question of my audiences when I'm speaking to them: what do you think is the number one reason why people are so susceptible to social engineering? And they're like, sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't, and I finally lead them to the answer. It's trust. I say trust is not a bad thing. Trust is crucial for society, because if we don't have trust, we have total chaos. And we see some of that chaos in the world today, right?
Yeah.
But that's that trust that's a factor. And what really is the danger is that blind trust, when people believe anything and everything that's conveyed to them, whether it's by email, social media approach, text message, or face-to-face encounter, or telephone call. That's when they blindly believe everything, trust everything. That's when that's the best tool for the social engineer to leverage that trust.
Oh, for sure.
And so I found like in all my relationships, it was true. It was the trust that they wouldn't question things that I was telling them or explaining to them at all, really.
When you've kind of got to that, so backtracking to, like, you've established POL, you've or patterns of life, you've kind of got to the point where you're just about to insert yourself into the life of your potential assets. When you get to that stage of the bump, how do you normally find is the most effective way for you to do this in a social meeting? Do you find it best to walk up directly and say, "Hi, my name's blah blah blah," and and introduce yourself, or do you do it gradually, or what's your preferred method and technique?
It's a very good question, and there are a number of methods. One thing is sort of like being in the same place, same time, and taking advantage of that, or you're kind of like cold calling them, right? Trying to get them to come out to meet with you for lunch or dinner or with some pretext, right? I always found that the cold calling is a little bit more difficult, but good salespeople, they're really good at cold calling as well. So it's a matter of studying that individual in advance, whatever you can. And I go back to today's social media, because you can look on their social media sites and you can learn so much about them and what might resonate with them, right? Whether it's a business activity or a social activity or whatever the case is, calling them up, engaging them in that conversation, and you got to build up that rapport and trust in a matter of a few minutes, and then trying to invite them out. What appears to be more natural, of course, is if you know where they're going to be and you happen to be at that same event. Trade shows, conferences are great for this. I tell people, you should be on your guard when you're out there, because you're walking around. People are more relaxed, right? They're more talkative. They're all wearing their badges with the name of their company. You're at Target in their name.
Yep.
Right. So you can walk around and easily strike up a conversation, kind of like you might know which companies, organizations are going to be there. You might not know the names of the individuals, but you can quickly go around and scope that out, and then look at a way that you can walk up to that person or strike up a conversation. Or maybe it's during the coffee break. People are going around, and it's easy to strike up that conversation. What I love, though, is trying to sit down next to somebody during that lunch, at a conference or a trade show. You got 45 minutes, pretty much uninterrupted time there, and that's usually enough to really be able to develop a bit of a relationship, to the point that you can say, let's get together for lunch or coffee or something, in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. And that's kind of like the beginning, right? And so it's getting in front of them at those type of events. Or if you know their pattern of life, the PLL, where they're going to be. They're going to a particular fitness center, or they're going to this area for happy hour. Things where they do have a pattern. And I go back to social media, pattern of life, Instagram. People always take themselves. They're at a restaurant. They take a picture of their plate of the food before they consume it. They're at the gym pumping iron, and they say, "Look at me," right? And and you can kind of figure out where they're going to be. And we organize what we call a bump. Bump into the person, right? They think it's just hapstance, but you start this conversation up. Things that resonate with them, topics that resonate with them, and that you finish that conversation. They think, "Wow, there's such great synergy with this person." There's a connection.
Oh yeah,
we talk about things that don't interest us at all many times. Interest them, and people love to talk.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with the term elicitation. Maybe a lot of people that listen to this, some maybe not, and it's basically a way to move a conversation onto different topics, and that could be through asking a question, using a false statement or something that gets the person to want to explain something to you or to correct you naturally. And you're doing this intentionally, and you just shut up and you listen. And it's such a great tool to collect
Oh,
sometimes even very sensitive information regarding them or the organization that they work for. It's a great tool.
oh yeah, it's amazing. I love it, and of course, I mean, hasn't our life got so much easier since the birth of social media? Uh,
Yes, it's so much easier, but at the same time, I mean, from two standpoints, right? Because it's a way for us to collect information on a potential target, and
Mhm.
it's also a mechanism for us to I won't say I was going to say attack them, but sort of like target them, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
reaching out to them.
Mhm.
Whatever the social media platform is. I like to use LinkedIn a lot because it's considered more of a professional network.
Mhm.
Individuals got their, it's kind of like a resume on steroids, right?
Yeah,
You see
exactly.
everything on there, and you can also get a sense of how they're trying to market themselves, you know.
Mhm.
um, and then you can reach out to them by requesting to connect. And most people say they don't connect with people, they only connect with people that they know. That's not true. I think
Ah,
the vast majority of people will automatically connect with somebody that they don't know. They don't see
mhm.
any harm in it, but
Exactly.
it's a great tool for us. I mean, we can even create fake social media profiles
Yeah.
and develop those with commonalities with the target.
Mhm.
Maybe the same university, same association that they belong to, same, sports fans of the same teams,
That's it. Yeah.
same, same kind of work that they do, or that also resonates when someone sees that this individual that's
Mhm.
contacting them has something in common. They're more likely to connect, and it's a lot more effective than trying to reach out to somebody via email, right? Even
Oh,
though we
for
get
sure.
emails, and unless we know the person or it's a really catchy subject line, we're probably say delete or trash, right? But
Mhm.
with a profile, we see the picture of somebody, and we maybe even exchange a few messages, and those messaging features can
Mhm.
carry those malicious links and
Mhm.
malicious attachments just like an email can, but they're much more effective. And
Yeah.
so, it can be used for spear phishing, or it can be used just to reach out to somebody and try to develop a relationship with them, right? To like recruit them if you're an intelligence service, or uh, or hire them as a consultant to get the information that you want from their organization. It's only limited to our imagination, really.
Oh yeah, I mean, social media itself, I love it. You run about elicitation there. I teach and train elicitation from time to time, and one of the beautiful things that I come across with social media as an elicitation tool, by getting into an argument with the target from a catfish profile, or whatever you want to call it, the make believe profile, and you can say, well, what do you know? Yeah, what do you know about financial services? I'll have you know, I'm the head of da 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 da,
Yeah.
and I did,
Oh yeah.
and then you say, yeah, so, and you think you're qualified, and you can get into, and they will try everything to prove themselves and their authority and their intelligence and experience, and they will tell you so much. It's phenomenal. You get all this information out of them, and it's all from a profile that doesn't exist. And then then you can go the other way, kind of approach from the friendly side.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I love it. So
Me too.
going back to what you were saying there about the POL, and like the kind of the bump, me personally, I love that whole approach of familiarity. Being the gym, like you say, that it could be the gym, could be anywhere, the same time every week, and until they recognize you as being a regular part of their life, and that familiarity builds a safety that isn't really there. And then from there, it's just a case of like bit by bit, a smile to a wave to a hi to a,
Yeah.
before you know it, you're out drinking with them, sports bar or something.
Yeah, there's really, I think you'd agree with me, there's nothing that replaces that face-to-face interaction. I mean,
Mm.
that is the best. But the way we today with technology is not as good as far. I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages. That face-to-face is much stronger to build that relationship, and probably get them to do something for you. Today, though, with the internet, we can have somebody on the other side of the world in China or Russia trying to target Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and they can do that from the safety of their home countries, and they can do that also using multiple personas, because I
Yeah.
can develop a fake profile with one name and try to go after this person with some pretext, and for some reason it doesn't work out, right? But then I can go after the same person again with some other persona. In the real world, well, we did this overseas. Well, you do it once, and if it doesn't work, you burn yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're done. So it's very different. But I think there's actually, from a targeting standpoint, it opens up a lot bigger, a lot more fish in that ocean, really.
For
that
sure.
are viable that we can get to today. So in some ways, it's a lot easier than before. But I think the quality, I mean, it's a little more difficult to develop them along the way when it's all virtual, but it still can be done.
Oh yeah, and of course to dispel a few myths here, because there seems to be this kind of stigma to you say the word cybersecurity, and people visualize somebody with a bank of screens in a dark factory warehouse somewhere with a guy in a hoodie, hacking away with the latest technology, a screen of matrix zeros and ones and whatever else. And the truth of the matter is, it's not like that at all, is it?
No, I mean, I'm sure there's some people that are, a lot of the people are doing those things from their house. Of course, they might be, dressed up very casually. But yeah, it's people probably, their neighbors have no idea what they're doing. You don't see them as doing anything. They're coming and going from their house periodically, and a lot of people are working from their homes anyway. So the fact that you run a business out of your house is not anything that's unusual. And so it's very easy to conduct these things. I lost my train of thought there.
I'm sorry. Cybersecurity in general, there seems to be a lot of myths and a lot of kind of like I say, stigmas attached to how people visualize it. The truth of the matter is, people say, "Oh, it doesn't affect me. I'm just an average person," or whatever the case may be. And it really genuinely does, because it's not just about you and your life. It could be anything from the company you work for, who you're related to, who you've got access to. There's so much that sometimes people don't realize. And, and then afterwards, I mean, so I'll give you an example. I was hired a while ago to get what I could on the cyber intelligence or the cybersecurity specialist at a well-known bank here in the UK. I'm not going to say which bank it is because it would be embarrassing for them. And this guy, he was locked down tight. He'd got his LinkedIn profile, but there was next to nothing on it, his role, and I think where he went to school, and that was roughly about it. There was 4 or 5 people with the same name on Facebook, but the profiles were either photoless or whatever the case may be. And on the internet in general, you could only find X bank, he is this particular position, and that was it. And like I said, there was that was it. That was where the photo was. The one photo was actually on the bank's website, not his LinkedIn. He got his LinkedIn locked down. And the way I did it, I actually found his wife, because his wife's site on Facebook was wide open. And there was photos of him and the kids on holiday, and there was the mass of information. And all I did was I went off the surname, and I just did a lot of scouring. It took me a long time, but I eventually managed to cross-reference the photo of him in one of the family photos on her profile with the photo of him on the bank, and that was it. The intelligence I gathered and the amount of information I gleaned from there on out was unbelievable. I had a dossier this thick to hand over and say, "There you go," and they couldn't believe it afterwards. Or like, wow, we couldn't get anything. So yeah, there you go. That's a perfect example of it's the wife, not the guy himself.
Oh yeah, that's the first place I go if I find that someone seems to be locked down and not very much information available on them. I will take a look at their significant other and if they have children, because many times they're much more less concerned with, I guess, privacy and security on their accounts. But, it makes a big difference. I just find that people in general first of all, they don't think that something's going to happen to them. And like, it won't happen to me. It's not until it happens to them or happens to somebody very close to them, they realize, whoa, that could happen to me. What I do sometimes during presentations is, in advance, if I know names of attendees, I will use an avatar to connect with them in advance, 2 weeks in advance. And then that avatar begins also not just connecting, and I would say about 50% of them actually connect with the avatar, and then exchanging a few messages, and then having the avatar send to them a file, usually a PDF file that's corrupted. It's not, it's not malicious. It's just corrupted. It doesn't open, and then they'll come back and ask, "Can you send it again to me?" Then open and send it to my personal email address, and when I show this image of that profile during the presentation, they're like, because at the beginning of the presentation, they're saying, oh, they don't connect to anybody they don't know. And all of a sudden they have connected with this person. And many of them realize that they've also tried to open up the attachment and they were totally taken in. Then they understand, yes, how easy it is that they could be targeted and how easy they could fall for it. I think there's a couple of reasons, though, unfortunately, why this attitude persists of kind of like, I don't have to worry about it. It's not going to happen to me. Or if it does, so what? Is the insurance industry, right? Because insurers are going to cover companies up to a certain, level if they're targeted, if there's a cybersecurity risk. And so it's kind of like, if I have insurance, that's the most important thing. I don't necessarily have to deal with all these things. Or they believe the investment in technology is going to protect them. Yeah. And I always tell, as a social engineer, we look to circumvent technological controls, policies, and procedures that companies put in place thinking that it's going to save them. We find a way around the technology, and that's that human element, right? So I just think that so much money is going into technology, and especially today, I mean, with AI threats and with deepfakes, this is a fantastic playground for fraudsters. It's just,
for sure.
It's like steroids for criminal activity. It's, I mean, even you said about all this time that you spent in trying to research, right? And I know it's very time consuming, but you can take some of not that ChatGPT is going to be able to do this for you now, but the technology is there. They put guardrails and not allowing you to research individuals unless it's like a politician or a celebrity, right? Yeah. But take those guardrails off. The technology is there to pull all this data together regarding individuals, and it's very quick. So that's an incredible amount of targeting data, and that you get with great efficiency to be able to use in targeting individuals. I mean, that's just one component of AI that good luck in trying to protect yourself from that. The information's out there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I mean, it'll never be as good as the human eye. Because there are things, I mean, especially such as yourself, people like me and one or two others who are in the game, we do things where we will look at the social media kind of photos that you've got on there. We might spot something in the background, like an above ground pool or some kind of structure, and go, okay. Then we'll look on Google Earth and go, there's that, and before you know it, we're building this picture of we've now got your address, we've got your exact location, we've got we can build out from there. These are the things that a lot of the AI is good for getting what's in black and white, matching up a photo to a photo or words to words and that kind of thing. But it doesn't necessarily look at a particular photograph and say, hey, what's that in the background? What's this here? And can I see this on somewhere? So mixing and matching is a whole.
Not yet, but not yet. It can go there eventually. But it's just, whether it's the collecting of the information or actually the means of reaching out to people. I just love now, I've always loved vishing, the use of the telephone, because you get the individual online and you can sort of like monitor where that conversation is going. If they are buying into it or if they're asking you questions, I mean, you can address those and you can kind of keep them engaged versus if you send them a text message or email or whatever, you don't really know. You don't know, first of all, necessarily if they saw it, or you might, and you don't know how they're going to react to it. But when you call them up, you can pretend to be whoever you want to be. And credibility is so easy to build today with spoofing the caller ID number. So they believe that call's coming in from, another employee of another branch office, or you're adding the voice cloning, and that is super powerful today. A lot of companies are getting taken by these types of frauds. Someone's calling in and using the voice of the boss, and getting a wire transfer or calling in and pretending to be a client or whatever, and getting very sensitive information regarding the account. And it's also, I write about this in my book also for the seniors. I mean, the grandparent scam is huge. It's like the second largest scam that and regarding the amount of money that's taken, because they believe when they answer the phone, they believe it's their grandchild, that's in the
Yeah,
calling, because it's the voice of the.
that's it.
All you
Yeah.
need is a few seconds of supposedly a few seconds of sampling of the voice.
Yeah, you don't need much at all. It's
No.
surprisingly really easy, and you can do the same thing with putting an image of or a video of a face together with somebody. The way technology has come on in leaps and bounds in the last few years is really unbelievable. There are similar things now that over here in the UK where people are getting text messages that they've figured out and they've said, hey, it's your grandson or it's your son and they won't necessarily put that. They'll put, hi mom, I'm in trouble, please put X amount in my bank, here's the sort code and account number, I need to get home quick, or whatever the case may be. Quick time is of the essence, and next thing you know, they're transferring money over because they haven't checked out, or so and it's a numbers game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's paying off for them. And then another scam that happened here in the UK a few years ago, they would have somebody set up a premium rate, really high rate telephone number, and it was something huge, like the equivalent of like $50 per minute to dial this number. And what they'd have a well-presented, very polite young lady, and she'd go out somewhere out in the countryside, and she'd go to the first house that she came across. She'd knock on the door. She'd say, hi, I'm really sorry to disturb you. Can you help me out with something, please? I've broken down the road. I just want to quickly call my dad. My phone's flat. Can I just let him know where I am so he can come and get me? And and then somebody answered the phone the other end. They'd dial this $50 an hour number, and they'd be going, yeah, it's what's the address? And they'd be relaying the address, and they've spent about 15 minutes plus on the phone explaining about what happened to the car and where they are, and lovely nice man's letting them use the phone, and then that'd be it. They'd be gone.
Wow, I hadn't heard of that. There's no recourse. I mean, the customer that's gotten,
I really don't know, because it seemed to have gone through a phase of happened a lot and then all of a sudden died out. So whether that's something now that the telephone companies have caught on to and resolved, I don't know. But there's lots of these things that you've got to be quick with these, and because they happen. Somebody makes a lot of money somewhere and then they're gone. Which brings me back to this complacency that people tend to have, where they kind of go, oh well, my credit card will give me the money back. I'll get a refund. And I'm wondering, do you think the future will be where perhaps credit card companies might look into whether you've taken reasonable precautions to prevent this, and say, well, look, we will give you a refund providing you haven't been what's the word? I don't want to say sloppy, but like kind of careless, negligent. Yeah, if you've been negligent with your information, and do you think that may be something of the future, where the credit card companies might say, look, we're not going to cover this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I think it would be a great idea. I mean, there's some of these cyber insurance companies that will look at that regarding whether or not their customers are in full compliance, or did they do something that was negligent, and that could be a way out for the company to say, I'm not going to cover that. And on a one-on-one individual level, it's a little bit more dangerous. It's a problem that whether it's a company or an individual, it's sort of they want to maximize the experience. They don't want to put many things in place to sort of enhance the security of a client's account, or what and unfortunately, security is not convenient, right? But
that's right.
It's not convenient to be a victim of identity theft either. So I mean, where do you draw the line? But I think there should be, put this way, at a very minimum, much more awareness that's fomented by, first of all, I think government entities in creating this awareness in the general public, and I think some of them do that already somewhat. But I think even the commercial organizations, whether it's a financial sector, insurance company, a bank, whatever, also need to have programs in place to inform their customers, their clients, of the different types of schemes that are out there to protect them. And they should, we spent years and years and years generating wealth, right? to have something in the bank when we retire that we can, we can retire and still have a quality of life.
Yeah.
But there's not much focus on, there's focus on wealth generation. There's not much focus on wealth preservation. And I've seen so many cases where people can lose a huge chunk of their life savings in some of these scams, or their entire life savings, because no one has really gone out and tried to educate the public about these things. I posted something on LinkedIn today that I thought, here was a bank that actually was reaching out and trying to try advice to their clients and say, don't react upon every single thing you got right away. Sit back, take a look at it, right?
Yeah.
And try to verify whether or not this is authentic request, because it's in the bank's interest and it's in the interest of the client. But I think more and more organizations need to do this sort of education of their clients, because it's not happening enough. I speak on this topic of social engineering and the use of deep fakes, and I mean, it's amazing. Even today, if I'm with an audience and I ask them, how many of you have seen a deep fake? And maybe 1/3 of the hands go up. The other 2/3 have no clue what a deep fake really is. It just astounds me. Wow. It just astounds me, because the information is out there. The information's out there, right? But not many people are really following it or aware of it.
And of course, I mean, we've addressed some other scams. I mean, one here that I don't know whether you've had a similar thing over there in the US, but here in the UK, we have this thing where you'll get a phone call from the bank and they'll say, look, we've suspected fraud on your account. We're not 100% sure, but what we want to do is we want to make sure your money's safe. So they'll say, what we're going to do, we're going to set up an account for you right now, a security account. We want you to transfer all your savings and your money into that account. We're going to freeze these accounts until we've made sure that the fraud has passed, and then when we've checked it out and made sure it's secure, we'll then put all the money back in. And of course, like you say, these older generation, like the grandpa scam, they'll do that willingly, trusting that the person on the other end is the bank or is working at the bank. And I've said to so many people, like you say, what's the term they use? Trust but verify.
Yeah, but I say I turn that around, because to me, trust and verify, it's too late. Even if it's fraudulent, you need to verify, then trust. Because if you do it and then you think, oh, I'm gonna check on this, within the next 10-15 minutes, it's too late. It's already happened.
Oh yeah. Don't do anything first. Make sure you can trust the person on the end, but verify before you do anything. Verify that is genuinely them, even if that means saying, look, in the nicest possible way, I don't know who you are. You've just called my phone. I've done it myself. I've had people call me and they said, hello, is that Gavin? I said, yes. And I said, can I take your date of birth? I've gone, no. I don't know who you are. I know. And these people, they call me. I don't care who they're from. They'll turn around and say, look, before I go any further, I've got to get you through security and ask you a few questions. I'll say, well, no. I'll tell me where you're calling from. And it's
really ironic. They want to verify that you are the account holder, right, or whatever.
It's like, you're calling me.
I know. I had a call like that 2 days ago. It was from a pharmacy under the medical plan that I have. And it was a record. I mean, it was one of these robotic calls, and the first thing they want to do is verify my date of birth. And I just hung up on him. I said, "No way, that's insane." And it's so easy for them to set up that kind of scam, right? So easy for them to do that, and I'm sure they get a significant percentage of people that will fall for it.
Oh, for sure. And of course, it might be your bank, it might be your pharmacy, it might be whoever.
Right. It might be real.
If it genuinely is them, they should have absolutely no objection to you saying, thank you for your call. I'm now aware you want to contact me. What I'm going to do when I hang up, I'm going to go and Google the number for whichever company it is, or pharmacy or bank, and I'm going to call you back. Can you give me a reference number, please, or whatever the case may be? And then if you ring them back, if it was genuinely them and you've got their genuine number, then fine, no problem. And if it wasn't, then at least you're aware of it and nothing sinister's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to the grandparent scam with,
sure.
And when someone calls in, a family member in distress, what I highly recommend to people, like families, talk about this issue and set up a code word or a code phrase that if this is an authentic call, authentic emergency, we're going to use this word in that conversation. If that word or phrase does not surface, then this is fraudulent. And that's one way
Yeah.
for families easily protect themselves from that type of threat, and I've heard of some people actually trying to incorporate that now into their families, right? Talking about it, maybe even doing a test case to kind of like reassure that people remember that this is the case.
I have a very similar thing with my daughter. We have a safe word, so I know that she's all right if I call her or whatever, for very similar circumstances. And we also have a danger word, so that if ever she's in a compromising position and somebody was to say, look, I know you and your family have a safe word, and make sure you say the safe word. She says the danger word in its place, and I know that she's compromised and has a problem the other end and can't speak freely. So, she's under duress or whatever the case may be. So, and it's a very, very great system to put in place. It really, really is. And I mean, I could. There is so much we could cover, especially when it comes to social media. And the one bit of advice I give a lot of people, you might be able to go a step further than what I can, but I say, you don't have to stop posting everything on social media. You can still post pictures of your lunch. You can still put your holiday snaps on there if that's what you want to do. But what I generally tend to do is say, do it when you come back.
Right.
Take your holiday photos, and then when you come back, that's when you post them. Tell people where you've been, not where you are. Because so I can see you nodding because I know that you're probably thinking the same.
Well, there was even unfortunately, this happened, and it was like maybe 2-3 months ago. I still remember that. I think it was a rapper or something that was having lunch with his girlfriend, and he had enemies. I mean, he usually would be wearing a lot of jewelry and things like that. Yeah. And so the girlfriend took a picture and posted it right up, up that we're here, and within like half an hour, this group came in and they assassinated him and took his gold chains and everything.
Wow,
literally.
Bloody hell.
I mean,
that's a perfect example, of how vulnerable we are making ourselves through social media, checking in here, photos of what restaurant you're at, or, and this is why I say all the time, never announce your moves before you make them. My cousin did exactly the same thing. She had a holiday countdown on social media, and every day she'd post 39 days to go till I'm in the Bahamas. And this went on until eventually she went on holiday and came back off holiday. Her house was empty. Gosh, the burglars had gone in and taken everything. And she called me crying, saying, what do I do? What do I do? I said, well, the first thing you do is learn your lesson. Next time, don't tell the world that you're going on vacation and your house is going to be empty for 2 weeks.
I know. People have this tendency. They want to, they're thrilled about they're going on a vacation. They want everybody to know about it. And they think it doesn't have as much value of telling them later. They gotta share that, their experience at the moment. Right.
And it's usually done. My wife did exactly the same thing a few years ago. She got excited, just booked a vacation for such and such a date and can't wait. I'm going to be away for my birthday. And I said, get on there right now and edit it and tag my brother in it and put in a big thank you to Aaron for offering to house sit while we're away and feed the dogs. So yeah, it was. You can still post things. I'm not saying don't post things, but generally I'll say wait until after the event, post where you've been, not where you're going or not where you are, because there are just too many ways that people are made vulnerable. I've even seen it with people, posting rant statuses online where they go, I spent half an hour on the bank on the phone to Wells Fargo this morning, and and you go, oh great, now I know you bank with Wells Fargo. So what would be for the average everyday person, what would be your kind of biggest piece of advice when it comes to social media?
Well, I mean, I know people that they keep away, they stay away from it and they don't feel like they need it. And that's great. And I find other people that need it. I find a lot of business people, right, that feel like they need, I'm not crazy about myself. I don't really like social media, but I use a lot of it for commercial reasons, right? Or, and so I feel like it's a necessity for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on it too much. But I see other people that they enjoy it. They enjoy it. It's a way to socialize. It's a way for families to know what's going on, in each other's lives. That's all good. I just think it's got to be very, very careful about really what are you sharing, the information that you're sharing. Is it something that could be turned around and used, used against you.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I'm looking at a lot of personal information is out there already.
Yeah.
You think about all these breaches, and almost all of us have been probably suffered the consequences. I think almost all of us have suffered the consequences of breaches, where our PII, personal identifying information, is out there. It can be used by somebody. So that we can't really, we can't take that information back. We have that vulnerability. And so I just think what becomes more important then is taking a look at if there's someone that's trying to target us for whatever activity it is, for mostly likely for fraud. If they're trying to target us, they have to approach us. It's not going to happen when we approach necessarily somebody else. It's going to happen when somebody approaches us. They could have studied us. They could have developed this perfect pretext for who they are and why they're reaching out to us. And there's a we got to look at what are the modes of communication today for them to do that. It can be that email. It can be that text message. It can be that social media invite and corresponding on social media. It can be that phone call, or it could be face to face. They could have studied us. They are ready to respond to the questions that we ask. But we have to be careful. And all right, what does they ask? What are they asking us to do? We don't have to be paranoid about every single incoming, message. But if they are asking us to do something, and if it's fraudulent, it could have dire consequences for us or our firm. That's when we got to stop. That's when we really got to step back and don't take any action in that moment, and then verify, right? Verify before doing anything. So I think it's kind of like how we treat that incoming communication from others more so than anything else, because they're leveraging that psychology, and we just have to be, that's why I like to talk about counterintelligence, because intelligence is going out there and gathering, trying to gather that information, trying to conduct some kind of activity. The counterintelligence is trying to protect yourself from those adversaries. So it's kind of countering those types of targeting tips.
Oh yeah, and it's so easily, especially with the likes of LinkedIn, where so going back to what you were saying earlier about we accept connection requests off people we don't know, because let's face it, the whole idea of a networking site is to network. We don't know what they've got to offer, what we could offer them. It could be a future customer, an future employer, employee, whatever. So this is the whole purpose of the likes of LinkedIn and these kind of things. So the chances are, if somebody sends you a connection request, most people are going to accept it, and vice versa. Now, with that in mind, you do have to be aware of what you're sending to them and what you're, like what you were saying there, the information that they want from you. They could approach you possibly as a prospective employer, and next thing you know, you're sending your resume off and all sorts of information, and and like you say, they're using like a sock puppet account or something to gain, huge amounts of information. So again, is there anything that you would advise people to look for when they're looking at somebody who's given them a connection request, in particular, that you'd say, this doesn't marry up, or this is a common theme amongst people who are using fake accounts?
Well, this whole thing about fictitious or fake job offers or job possibilities is huge. And there's a whole gamut of them trying to just collect information on you, or trying to get you to maybe pay for some training or service, or this thing's been going on for a long time here, where they will send you you need to procure some equipment, right? So they're going to send you a check, for like $5,000 or whatever, but that check's going to bounce. And in the meantime, you purchased this equipment from maybe some other sites that they've mentioned to you. This is where you need to get it, and so you've just lost $5,000 or $1,000 or more. But there's also this has been around for a long time. And it's used in the intelligence world, it's used in the criminal world, where it's a great ploy to target people as a potential recruiter. Reaching out to them. I've seen your profile on LinkedIn. I've seen your resume on Indeed or Monster.com, and we think you'd be a great fit for a position we're looking to fill with one of our clients. And they're gonna, like, the little carrots they're gonna put out there. The salary and benefits are higher than what you're making now. The title is higher than what you got, and your responsibility is also greater. So even if a person was not looking for a change in jobs, what do they have to lose
That's
by
right. It's still
learning more about this? And so they will agree to get together outside of the office to meet with the executive recruiter, who is actually a social engineer. And, they go through a normal set of interview questions, also some elicitation. And at the end of the day, at the end of the hour plus conversation, the social engineer has a tremendous amount of information about the individual and potentially about their company that they work for, information that could be very, very sensitive. It could be a one-time collection effort, or they might, meet a couple of times just to collect information that they're going to use against that company, to target the company. Or it could be kind of like, stringing this individual along. Well, that opportunity, fell through because the other candidate got it. And there's another opportunity, and that one unfortunately fell through. You were, competing with one other individual, and that person becomes, very frustrated. Didn't realize the job market was that difficult. And then the social engineer says, you mentioned to me early on in our conversations that one day you would love to be an independent consultant in the industry, a freelancer in the industry, after you gain some additional experience. I think I found a great opportunity for you to cut your teeth on. There is actually a client who's interested in someone as a consultant in the industry that they're working in, and they're you would stay in your current position with your benefits and everything, and this would be added income for you, maybe $2,000-$3,000 a month more, tax free, and all you have to do is meet with the client once a month, or send the information that they need, and eventually it's first of all not information that's really, really that sensitive, and they become accustomed to receiving the money, and the requirements are increasingly more sensitive, and the compensation also, and so they begin to incorporate that into their standard, their standard of life, and they can bring this information out, and it's not like a normal IT breach, right, where you might see that someone made an intrusion into the company. This information is coming out, and companies don't realize that they're hemorrhaging this information. And in most cases, if done correctly, they will never know. Even when eventually the relationship is terminated, they will never, ever know that this has happened to them. And it's very effective. And that's also through an approach of a potential recruiter.
Yeah. Now, your company actually specializes in preventing this, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? And that's counterintelligence
services, and a lot of it has to do with awareness training. For not only the executives, but for the employees throughout the organization. There's a lot of different things depending on where they work in the organization. They need to understand. Where I start out really is understanding who are the threat actors and what are their objectives. Right? You have to understand your enemy to defeat them.
Oh, for sure.
And so we look at that. We look at the methodology then of how they collect this information to conduct the targeting, and how they will analyze individuals, assess individuals, and how they will use a variety of different social engineering techniques, which are constantly evolving, right?
Oh yeah, and that's the other aspect here is you can bring everybody up to speed with what the latest fad is, or what the latest trend amongst criminals, or people gathering intelligence. But by the time you've got everybody on the same page, it's changed another twice again to the next thing. And
and Gavin, it really irritates me, and I mention this a lot when I'm giving presentations. The way that this sort of cybersecurity or social engineering awareness is kind of like put out there. And I think a lot of it's done maybe leading by organizations that say you need to have this compliance in place, right? So it's called compliance training. It's a once a year exercise typically where employees will watch a series of cheesy videos. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but cheesy videos, and then answer questions. And if they get 75% or more correct, then they complied. If they have, if they fail to get 75%, they can take it again and take it again. And they're multitasking. They're doing all other kinds of things. Are they really listening to what they're doing? What they're learning? Are they absorbing it? They print out their certificate of compliance. They send it to their boss. The boss gets it from everybody that they're responsible for. They send it to their boss, and they say, we are 100% in compliance. But the employees really haven't. They don't see the value in this training other than they have to comply to maintain their job. I think it's totally upside down. I think a way for companies to approach this issue is to provide training that is seen as a benefit to the employees, because first of all, these employees can use it for their own financial security, protect themselves and their loved ones from financial fraud that can be targeting them directly. Once they understand what this is and how they can, how they can protect themselves, it will carry over to how they conduct themselves in the workplace as well. And so I think that's how it really should be approached. But, it's just once a year. They don't really absorb that much. And as you mentioned, it constantly evolves. So
yeah,
it's like the things that are happening, I've never seen that before. No one ever mentioned that before. And I've never thought that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking.
And again, for anybody watching who's been through any of this or has experienced any of this, please put it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know, what's going on around the world. Because there might be stuff that even I'm unaware of, that you're unaware of, and and if we can kind of get it brought to a stop before it does any damage, then then please let us know. So,
absolutely.
And your company, we've got this right, it's called Counterintelligence Institute. Is that right?
Correct.
And you're based in Florida?
We're based in Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, I'm not far. I used to live in Miami, and
okay.
I'm really missing Miami right now. Believe me. So yeah, I mean, so we're almost coming up to the top of the hour, and there's so much we could speak about. I could do this for for hours. It's such an interesting topic. So, first off, Peter, would you come back and join us again at some point?
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it, and I hope that your listeners find value in this, because as you can see, I have passion for it, because I spent a better part of my career using these social engineering skills, and I want to help individuals to protect themselves from, fraudsters that are using them and trying to attack them. So I feel it's my mission. I really enjoy it, trying to educate people.
Well, I'll put links also to your books on Amazon in the show notes as well, so people can, if they want to check out from either the public point of view or the corporate point of view, they can have a look and get your books. And then if people want to get in touch with you directly for your services, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, to the website, counterintelligence-institute.com. It's kind of long, but it's easy to remember, right? And you can also send an email to me directly if they want to. It's pgwarmka@counterintelligence-institute.com. Okay. Or LinkedIn. If it might be the easiest way, look me up on LinkedIn and reach out to me.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you once again for joining us. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been so easy to chat to you. So you can tell what you used to do for a living.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. You have an awesome day.
Thank you. All right.